Okay, hello everybody. I hope you're all well. My name is Simon Horton and I'm the founder of Negotiation Mastery. And in this short video, I'm going to be talking to my friend and colleague, Mike Reddington, who is an expert forensic interviewer. Mike, do you want to tell people what it is that you do?
Sure, and it's great to be here with you, Simon. Thank you. I am by trade an executive resource and certified forensic interviewer. So as a certified forensic interviewer, my teammates and I were responsible for traveling the world, how we met, and teaching investigators at all levels, public sector and private sector, how to obtain the truth by rapport-based ethical means. Non-confrontational would be the key differentiator. And now as an executive resource, I really focus on executive education with my disciplined listening method, teaching executives how to reduce missed opportunities and increase commitments to action by implying strategic and ethical observation and persuasion techniques.
Fabulous, fabulous. And am I right in thinking that you just finished writing a book?
I did, yes.
And what's the book called?
Disciplined Listening.
Disciplined Listening. And when's it going to come out?
We're looking at January of next year, 2022.
Fantastic. Yeah, fantastic, fantastic. Great. And so, yeah, exactly. I mean, as you said, we met probably nearly 10 years ago or something like that at a conference, presenting together in Ireland, and we've stayed in touch since then. And viewers, I can tell you that Mike is an expert. Mike was an expert 10 years ago, so he's a double expert now. So we're really lucky to be having him here. And what we're going to be doing, we're going to do a series of 4 short videos around the idea of dishonesty in negotiation. So negotiation is in my field, and I know that a lot of my clients and such like are one of their big worries is, yeah, but what if the other guy lies or holds information back or misrepresents it in some kind of way? How can we find that out, and what do we do? So that's exactly what we're going to be looking at. 4 short videos. This one, we're going to be looking at how we can prepare to protect ourselves against that. Next session, we're going to be looking at detecting it. So evaluating that communication for potential dishonesty. Then, thirdly, how do we manage our own response to it, our reaction to it? Because I don't know about you, but my response is typically outrage and kind of, and then I lose it. And then I don't manage the rest of the negotiation. You know, it sabotages the rest of the negotiation and I don't get my outcome because I've lost my ability to manage my response. So what can we do to manage that response? And then lastly, how do we respond to that person if we think there has been dishonesty? How do we manage that situation externally? So this session, preparing to protect ourselves. I'm a massive fan of preparation in negotiations. My view, 70% of the negotiation is in the preparation. So Mike, what can we do in our preparation to protect ourselves from potential dishonesty?
Well, thank you for the wonderful introduction. Again, it's great to be here with you. And I, too, am a huge believer in preparation and the importance of preparation, which certainly is a surprise to no one. When it comes to the specific topic of potentially detecting deception or at least being on the lookout for when people might be withholding information in these negotiations, preparation takes on a whole nother level of importance and area of focus as well. So to use interviewer geek speak, if you will, we often talk about the concept of ground truth. I want to know as much truth as I can, as many facts as I can before I go into any interview whenever possible. Sometimes it's not possible, but even if I'm investigating or I have to interview someone who may have committed a crime in a specific area in London, down on Fleet Street. Well, then what I want to do is I want to make sure that I am at least conversationally familiar with that area. So if I was in London, I would literally go walk the streets. So I'd be around the block where it happened, really take a look at what are the signs, what are the mirrors, where do people pass? Are there cameras on the street? If a bus was stopped picking somebody up, where would it be? So I can be that much more persuasive or influential because I can make it sound like I know more than I really do, even by knowing relatively inconsequential information.
And a lot of that kind of stuff you can just pick up on Google Maps kind of thing. You can walk along and you can see the shops and such like just by doing that kind of stuff.
100%. And you don't even have to leave your house to do it.
Exactly.
And then for actual dishonesty, knowing the information ahead of time is critical. So one of the things we talk about is the order of conversations, depending on the negotiation. Is it a multi-stage, multi-party negotiation? How much research can we do in advance? So especially in today's internet age, depending on the type of contract or agreement we're looking to negotiate, how much information is out there that we can go find, that we can cross-reference for what's the range that these agreements typically fall in? What are the big deliverables or negotiating aspects? So the best way to tell, and we'll get to this in another episode, the best way to tell if somebody is lying to you, and we'll talk about the dangers of that and whatnot, isn't necessarily to try to catch it in the conversation. It's to have the information ahead of time and use the conversation as a verification tool to see if they match what you already know or have a great explanation in comparison to what you already know, as opposed to trying to validate it on the fly.
Yeah, totally. Nothing beats your due diligence. Yeah. So, okay. So where else, what else might you do in terms of that? In terms of, you said kind of do that recce. What else might you do in terms of finding that information up front?
Each situation is going to be a little bit different, obviously, but whether it is, if we have mutual connections that I can speak with about how previous interactions have gone, is there any information I can access, like I said, online, research? Have we done business together before? Are there colleagues of mine I can go speak to, or previous contracts or documents that I can go look up? If I'm going to talk to somebody and it's at some sort of conference or trade show or an event, can I literally go sit somewhere, either at the bar or in the lobby, and just watch kind of how the interactions go? If that person is speaking, go watch them speak so I can get to know a little bit more about them. Also, hand in hand with that, and I'm sure this goes right in line with what you teach, is I want to document what I'm okay leaving the conversation with in advance. So if I have, this would be the perfect agreement for me. This is my plan B, plan C, plan D. So that way I don't end up negotiating against myself in the heat of the moment and trying to think, well, okay, is this okay? Am I willing to accept this? Why? Which is taking away from the actual conversation that we're having here.
Yeah, absolutely. So what you're saying basically, is really thoroughly do that research beforehand, because I absolutely, as you say, I stress preparation for the negotiation, and people go, yeah, I prepare, and I'm thinking, I bet you don't. I bet you, to be fair, life is busy, and so we might plan an hour for preparation, put it in our calendar, but then the world gets in the way and we find ourselves in the taxi, turning up at the office and going, who are we talking to again? What are we talking to them about? Because just the world gets in the way. But you're saying even that hour that you isolated, protect that, but so much more, that the more preparation you put into it, just the less likely you are going to get caught out with them slipping through some kind of misrepresentation that they were hoping to try and get through, kind of thing.
Agree entirely. Is prepare for a purpose. And so when we are preparing, we're not just doing it because, okay, let me just get some stuff together. It literally, here are the outcomes I want to achieve. Here are the threats to achieving that outcome. Here's how I can prepare myself in a way to protect against those threats as much as possible. And life is busy. We all generally tend to make time for what we feel is important. So if we rely on our negotiation skills or our observation skills, or we think we're comfortable just winging it, then we might shortcut our preparation because we don't think it's important enough, and that hurts us. And I'll leave you with this too. After the conversation is a verification opportunity. All too often, especially in multi-stage negotiations, people don't take the time to verify what they've learned, what they've heard, what they've been told. And that's a huge miss. We get all this intelligence during this conversation. If there's a stage in between, take advantage of that time, go back and verify it. What else can you learn? What can you find out before you re-engage? Yeah,
fantastic. And that verification is preparation for that next phase of the negotiation.
100%.
Excellent. Thanks very much, Mike. This is fantastic. So viewers, come back for the next one. We've been looking at how to prepare to protect ourselves against any dishonesty. Next one, we're going to be looking at evaluating the communication for dishonesty. Were they lying? Were they misrepresenting anything else? So best of luck until then. See you soon.
Take care, everybody. Thank you.
everybody. I hope you're all well. And my name is Simon Horton. I'm the founder of Negotiation Mastery. And I'm here to talk with my friend and colleague, Mike Reddington, about dishonesty in negotiations. Mike, can you, some of the viewers may have seen our earlier video, but they may not have. So do you mind telling people what it is that you do?
Certainly. Thank you, Simon. And again, thank you for having me here. Really enjoying the conversations. I am an executive resource and certified forensic interviewer. So as a certified forensic interviewer, my job with my former teammates was to travel the world and teach the proper execution of non-confrontational interview and interrogation techniques. People might be surprised how easy it is, or how much easier, I should say, how much easier it is to get the truth when you're actually nice to people.
Yeah.
And now as an executive resource, I teach CEOs, sales teams, HR teams, how to use the truth to their advantage by applying the disciplined listening method in order to increase commitments to action and reduce missed opportunities by, well, we'll just leave it there for now. I know we're short for time, so we'll leave it there.
Cool. Excellent. Excellent. Thanks, Mike. So yes, so Mike and I are doing this series of videos. The first we've already done, which is on preparing to protect ourselves against dishonesty. In this session, we're going to look at evaluating the communication for dishonesty. Kind of how can we detect if there was dishonesty? So over to you, Mike. Tell me what are the main things we should be doing in terms of that?
Great question. And on the last episode, you mentioned a little bit about like when we feel like we've been lied to, it's very easy to be outraged, to get angry. It gets us off course. Yeah. So let's really start there. First of all, it's a bit of a mindset shift that in these conversations, whether it's negotiations or interviews where I come from, first, the research is very clear. The majority of the times when people lie, if you will, or withhold information, they're doing so to protect themselves, not hurt you. But yet we often get offended because we take it personally that someone has disrespected us or trying to take advantage of us or whatever it may be. So the first thing we try to say is, oftentimes, if you believe someone is being dishonest with you, stop and think that they're likely doing so because they believe it's their last good option at this moment in time. Yeah. So instead of really getting angry about it, let's use it to our advantage, because the real intelligence isn't the fact that somebody lied. It's why do we think they may be lying? What might be the motivation, the fear, the interest that's driving that potential statement of dishonesty? So to use that to get back to the question you asked, the first big thing is, I'm sure many of your listeners have likely read that people say or do different things when they're lying. There are so many variables and so many things to look at that instead of trying to read verbal or nonverbal communication, keep it simple. Look for signs of comfort or discomfort. Literally, just look for changes in their comfort level.
So you're saying, sorry, not the classic hand over the mouth or anything like that. It's just general discomfort signs.
Certainly, because somebody can look uncomfortable lying. Somebody can also look uncomfortable telling the truth based on the situation and who they are. So it's very easy for us to mislabel the same behaviors.
Yes.
So instead, if during the conversation at the beginning, and this is stressed in different places, but try to establish their behavioral norm. Like just
a baseline.
Yeah, perfect. What kind of looks normal and natural for them in this conversation? Yeah. Now, as the conversation goes on, look for changes in their comfort level. And when you see it, literally just ask yourself, why did their behavior just change? What was the trigger? What was just happening at that moment in time? Why did their behavior change? And what are they likely comfortable or uncomfortable with at the moment? Then we can adapt our communication as necessary.
So I think this is a fantastic thing to do, because this is really applicable to many other things above and beyond detecting dishonesty. It's if I notice they suddenly, they sat up in their chair or something like that, or they suddenly lost some energy or whatever. This is all I can ask, why have they done that? Why have they changed from their baseline? And I might think, it's because they suddenly got energized about that topic. Right, that's really interesting. Or they're not interested in that topic. Okay, how can I use that information? So brilliant. And I think people need to be doing this a lot more. So how would you then go towards, I think it's lying, as opposed to, I think they're energized or they're disenergized?
Generally, and this might not be a popular answer with a lot of people, I would really coach to avoid jumping to the lying conclusion.
Yep.
You may be right, you may be wrong. We can get into the science and statistics behind that, but right or wrong, how's it going to make us feel? And what are we going to do next? If we're in a negotiation where we literally can get up and walk away, if somebody makes us upset, they lie to us, we can get up and walk away, then okay, you think you got them caught them lying, get up and walk away.
Yeah.
Most of the time, that's not the world we live in.
Yeah.
So in that situation, again, what we really try to do is, instead of coach to catch people lying, what we coach to do is try to understand what people are thinking and feeling at any moment in time. And that really involves observing the totality of the communication. So matching their words with their tone of voice, the length of their pause. If they're fidgeting, there's lots of reason to fidget. I can't sit still to save my life. I fidget all the time. Did they just sit down and start fidgeting? That might be normal for them. As soon as we start, the easy example is, as soon as we start talking about price, now do they look down, start fidgeting really quick, look over at their colleague who checks with them real quick, and now they lean back. Okay, like that doesn't mean they won't pay the price, but this could just mean, okay, this is the part of the conversation we were worried about, so here we are. And it's that real contextual awareness that makes the difference, as opposed to catching people lying.
Yeah, okay. So it's almost that the lying is the symptom. And then if we can then work out what's behind that, and then we can work with that better. Well, why might they have done that behavior kind of thing? Then we can work with that better to, rather than instantly sort of, they're lying to me, I hate them, I'm out of here. Oh, I can't get out of here. And now you're in a difficult situation. Yeah.
What I'm about to say is going to sound a little bit cold, and I don't mean it that way. I was recently doing a session with a group very similar to the group that you and I met with. And on break, one of the attendees came up to me and talked about being really angry with a supplier who he knows is lying to him. Right. And so we started talking about it. And the bottom line is, this guy needs him to continue to supply him, at least for now, until he can find another one. So what we talked about there, and here's the part that I don't mean to be cold, at that point, if we just think about the person who's been lying to you as an asset. If I was thinking about them as a person and a colleague, and they lied to me and that made me mad, okay, well, they're still valuable as a human being. Let's still empathize and not disrespect them. But now, for my own mental sanity, if I switch my thought and instead of think, okay, well, now what do I do because they lied to me? Well, if we still need to be in business together, it's now, how do I manage this relationship in order to get what I need while I come up with the alternative, in his case, to change suppliers? Because being angry about it isn't going to help anybody or anything.
No, exactly. The anger is just going to make them lie more and dig in deeper. Whereas if you want a better result, because if they're still going to be your supplier, you still want them to supply as well as they can. And so being angry is, as you say, it's just going to make that less likely to be the outcome. So,
for sure. And literally, more often than not, we can't speak in always or never, but more often than not, the worst thing to do is call somebody out online.
Right. Okay.
As soon as you say to somebody, you lied to me, they're almost certainly going to say, no, I didn't.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which then doubles down on the lie and only makes them fight against it harder and jeopardizes the relationship. So it really is all about keeping the eye on the prize. What's the goal that we want to attain? And how does this potential dishonesty create a new path or a new opening or a new alternative for me to achieve this opportunity by doing what you said and addressing what's behind it?
Yeah. So what you're saying is, go back to the previous session, we do our preparation, we get as much ground truths that we can absolutely be sure are true as possible. Then, when we're in the communication, we're looking for signs of discomfort. We then ask the question, why are they, what led to that discomfort? And if we're on the lookout for dishonesty, we're checking that against our ground truth that we have done in our due diligence. And then that's how we work out whether there's a lie or not, kind of thing, or dishonesty.
Love it. And don't forget to verify after the conversation.
And verify afterwards. Exactly. Fantastic. Thanks very much, Mike. Great. So in our next session, we're going to look at how we manage our reaction to it once we've once we've identified that a potential dishonesty has been made. Brilliant. Thanks very much, Mike. Thanks very much, everybody. Good luck with putting it all into practice.
Thank you. Stay safe.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back. My name is Simon Horton, and I am the founder of Negotiation Mastery. And in this short video, I'm going to be talking to my friend and colleague, Mike Reddington. Mike, do you want to tell people what it is you do?
Sure. Very quickly, I am a certified forensic interviewer and executive resource. I'm the president of Inquasive, and I leverage my background in non-confrontational interview and interrogation to turn around and now train executives and HR teams and sales teams how to apply strategic and ethical observation and persuasion techniques with our disciplined listening method.
Fantastic, fantastic. And what Mike and I are doing is we're running a series of short videos where we look at dishonesty in negotiation. A lot, my field is negotiation. A lot of my clients are worried about detecting if the other person is lying or misrepresenting something. And Mike is the expert in that. What we're going to look at in this session, building on some of the things that came up in the previous sessions, is the idea of how do we manage our response? Because as I said in one of the previous sessions, if I think somebody's lied to me, my response is outrage. And I might be able to calm it down a little bit, but I'm an expert in sarcasm. And so that'll be my typical response, which again, isn't a good response either. And I end up not getting my outcome because of that. So Mike, have you got any tips in terms of managing your response?
Well, real quick, now I know why we get along so well. One expert in sarcasm to another. That solves that riddle. And yes, so there's a couple of things to remember first. And we touched on a few of them in our previous conversations. Most of the time, the research is clear when people lie, they're lying to protect themselves, not hurt you. Protect themselves or somebody else. They're not lying to hurt you. So we can use that to start to temper our inner rage or outrage. Also, we talked about the importance of really keeping our eye on the prize. What's the goal we're trying to achieve? What's the value we're trying to create? And if someone's lied to us, okay, that's a new road to take. How do we take that road to get there?
Yeah.
So let's think of a few other things. First, the number one fear that stops most people from doing most things is not failure. It's embarrassment.
Okay.
Feeling judged. And the number one reason why most adults will be dishonest most of the time is a fear of consequence. And that consequence could be real or perceived. Embarrassment being a shining example of one of them. So when we talk about controlling our reaction, we've already talked a little bit, eye on the prize, stay the course. They're not trying to hurt you. How do we use this new alternative to our advantage? But on the flip side, it's helpful to stay, or it helps us, stay calm when we can do a better job trying to understand where they're coming from. So if you think that someone is lying to you, just stop and think, well, wait a minute. Are they trying to avoid embarrassment? Are they trying to save face? If that's what they're doing, can't blame them. And then what's the consequence they're trying to avoid? Is it losing money? Is it getting a deal that they're going to regret? Is it trying to save face in front of their colleagues or coworkers? In negotiation, if we're trying to create a new agreement with somebody and they have to turn around and tell somebody else they have a relationship with that they're not going to do business together anymore, that could be a big enough fear, a big enough consequence not to be completely honest with us. So really embracing the fact that they're most likely not trying to hurt us. There is likely some fear of consequence that's driving the potential dishonesty, embarrassment being the leader in the clubhouse most often.
Yeah.
And it's the last good decision they thought they had. Okay, so now let's try to make that positive and work with it.
So if you can kind of if you're thinking, okay, they're lying. Why they're lying? Oh, because they might be embarrassed about this, or they're worried about this other thing that might happen. And then maybe it's the face idea or whatever. Then if you can try and work with that and maybe draw it out and say, listen, maybe you're worried about X or something like that, and bring that out in the open. Would you recommend doing that?
That is a potential path. One of the things we talk about is like when people give us an excuse, it drives us up a wall sideways. But when they give us the excuse, that means they're willing to talk about what we want, just
Yes.
under the terms of the excuse.
Yes.
So instead of getting angry and throwing away the excuse or calling them out on the excuse, we embrace the excuse. Let them start by unpacking the excuse, because that's what they want to talk about. And then we can use that to lead us around the back door, if you will, in order to get what we want. The same thing with dishonesty. If we think somebody is giving us a dishonest explanation or a dishonest reason, I default to sarcasm as well. So one of the things I've got to really try to do is make sure I follow up with a curious tone, because questions can be perceived as invitations or attacks. So I want to come back as curious, not attacking, and just ask follow-up questions and let them start to unpack that statement they just gave us. And as they unpack it, they're either going to expose their own dishonesty, problem solved, or they're going to give us another crack. Like, they'll speak to their motivation, or they'll speak to their reason, or they'll give us another avenue that we can walk in. So when we talk about listening for intelligence over information, information is they lied.
Yeah.
Okay, what are we going to do about that? But the intelligence is, why did they lie? Where are they going? That's what we can work with.
And what exactly, and what exactly can we work with, and how do we work with it? Yeah. So it's difficult, though, isn't it? We have our automatic kind of gut response, our emotional response. How dare you lie, or whatever. And if it's let's say it's email, I can generally calm myself down and typically outrage, how dare you? And then I go down to sarcasm, and then I go down to logic, and then I go, okay, no, I need to address the underlying thing. And then I can get the result I'm after. But that can take me a long time. That can take me 24 hours plus, in some instances, years.
Yeah.
How can we go through that process from gut response to optimum response in the moment? What can help in that?
I say this quasi-jokingly, but I mean it 100%. Whatever the first words are that come into your mind, swallow them. Don't say them. Yeah. Because there's a reasonable likelihood that they address how we feel, and they're not going to help the situation. So swallow the first words that come to mind. Oftentimes for me, I'll buy myself a few seconds by either saying okay or thank you, whichever one I feel like is more appropriate in the moment. That buys me just a couple seconds to reframe my mindset on what's important. Why am I here? What's the goal? What am I trying to achieve? And then I really try to frame my response around the goal instead of the reaction.
Yeah. Okay. I like that idea of some kind of cue that you can do that buys you time, which then your brain can quickly process. What am I trying to achieve? Oh yeah, I'm trying to get a good outcome here. Okay, don't go down my automatic response. What's my best response? Have you come across the work of Timothy Galway, In a Game of Tennis?
I don't know that I have.
So he was a tennis coach, and he was one of the first people who brought psychology to the game of tennis. Mm-hmm. And he saw that some of his clients, if they played a bad shot, that would be it. That would be the end of it. They go, you're terrible, you always mess up, and they'd spiral downwards. The next shot will be worse, and so on. Some of them had selective amnesia and moved on really nicely and calmly, and the next shot was a good shot. And so what he taught the ones that went wrong, is basically he called it the stop process, which is firstly, step back, think, what is it you're trying to do here, etc. Organize anything that you need to do to get back into the right frame of mind, and then proceed. And it's a kind of a construct that helps, instead of going stimulus, automatic response, it's stimulus, hold on, what's going on here? What is it I want to do? Why? How do I need to do it? Right, now respond, kind of thing. And it's nice. And I think it's not always necessary that we crack it instantly, but if we keep working on that, we do get better and better at it.
I love it. And in these negotiations and conversations, we can think about any statement, true or false, as just another move on the board. They made their move, we make our next move. And if we detach emotionally from it as much as possible, we'll be more successful.
Yeah, nice. And now you can integrate it into your negotiation strategy nicely. Yeah, brilliant. Thanks very much, Mike. Again, absolutely fabulous stuff. We've got one more session that we're going to do, and that is how do we then react, or how do we respond? We've managed our reaction. How do we then respond and, yeah, get to make sure that we do get our best outcome from the conversation.
Looking forward to it.
So hello everybody, my name is Simon Horton and I am the founder of Negotiation Mastery, and I'm joined again with my friend and colleague Mike Reddington. Mike, do you want to say briefly what it is you do?
Certainly, and again, thank you for the conversation, Simon. They've been a blast. I am a certified forensic interviewer and executive resource. So my job is to integrate business communication, research, and best practices with non-confrontational interview and interrogation techniques in order to teach executives how to use the truth to their advantage by applying strategic and ethical observation and persuasion techniques.
Fantastic, fantastic. And I'm sure a lot of the viewers are going to find this really, really interesting. So Mike and I have been, this is the fourth in our series of talking about dishonesty and negotiations. In this one, we're going to look at how do we respond? Let's say we've identified, I think they're lying there, or I think they've held something back or misrepresented it. What do we do with that information? And so Mike, let me hand it over to you. What do we do?
First, I'm going to start with the negative, which might be the wrong way to do it, but I'm halfway there, so I'm going to start. Don't accuse them of lying, please.
Right.
If we call somebody, if we accuse them of lying, we're likely going to put them on the defensive, force them to double down on the lie. We're going to make things worse. So let's avoid that one right out of the gate.
Yeah.
From there, contextually speaking, there can be different options and different best practices. But really, and we've talked about this a little bit previously, if we think somebody is lying to us, okay, it just happened. That's another movement on the chessboard. They moved, now we can move next. Instead of thinking they lied to me, what do I need to do next? Now let's think, what is the goal I'm trying to achieve? And how does that lie help me achieve my goal? And if we can switch that, if we can switch our mindset to there, okay, I think you just lied to me. Let me not get mad. What's the goal I'm trying to achieve? How does that lie help me achieve my goal? Then we can identify the new road or path in order to get there based on the lie we heard.
Yeah, so in a way, you're just saying it's just information. How can I use this information? And in negotiation, there's no golden rule. If there is a golden rule, about what to do about negotiation, is know your outcome and try something to get that outcome. And if that works, fantastic. And if they agree straight away, fantastic. But if they don't, then what do you do? Try something else. And this is all part of that negotiation process. And lying, if they do lie or misrepresent, that's just part of that process. Right. What do I do now with the new information that I've got? Yeah. For
sure. And that's where a lot of times we mess it up, because we get trapped in our emotional reaction. We feel disrespected or taken advantage of, and we react accordingly, instead of realizing that for whatever reason, this person felt it appropriate to misinform us. Okay, so now let's think about why may they have done that, and what's the new angle we can use because of it. Yeah.
I mean, I guess we've got deep wiring for trying to stop them lying, and our wiring is probably quite automatic wiring, and it's not necessarily the best approach, kind of thing. So we've got to kind of manage that, which is what we looked at in the next session. Can you give me an example of something that we might do instead of, as you say, shouting out liar or whatever, which we're tempted to do? What else might we do?
A couple quick alternatives. The first one is go with it. Literally go with it. Oftentimes when people lie to us, they expect us to challenge it right away. So that they're preparing for that defensive response. But if we don't attack, they don't have to defend. So it catches them off guard. And oftentimes people don't prepare their lies in depth. So if we go with it and tell me more, and we start asking questions with a curious tone, oftentimes that will unravel itself. And either they will literally come back to the truth occasionally, or as it unravels, we'll pick out a new way we can help them save face, believe it or not, by giving them an excuse. And this
Yeah.
is something that people often literally feel, trying to come up with the right word quickly, but almost like violated. You mean I have to give somebody an excuse to get them to
Yeah,
tell
yeah.
me the truth? Yes, because they just took a public position that was dishonest, which means we have to help them save face if we
Yeah.
want them to switch to honesty. So
Yeah.
as they unpack it, I'm listening for that face saving opportunity. Now, when I get the window, I'll give them the face saving statement, give them an excuse, give them a reason to allow them to come back and, oh yeah, I'm sorry, I forgot, I wasn't thinking, I was distracted, I wasn't looking at it that way, and
Yeah.
then give me more of an accurate statement. Now I've got what I need. Who cares if they lied to me along the way? I got where I needed to be.
Yeah, exactly. You know, yeah, you're right. People often say, well, why do I always have to be the bigger person? Well, I'll tell you why. It's so you get your outcome. That's
Yeah.
why, you know, sort of purely and simply for do it for selfish reasons kind of thing.
For sure. If someone's in a situation like this, or they're listening to this conversation and they think, well, I shouldn't have to do that. Well, congratulations. You're right. You shouldn't have to.
That's right. Yeah.
But you do. Like,
Yeah. Here we are in the real world. Yeah.
What's more important, the outcome, the goal we're trying to attain, or me winning some sort of moral superior high ground by telling you it's unacceptable to lie to me?
Yeah. Yeah. So you're saying two possible ways. One is play with it and just take that story further, and then it's going to go someplace where you're going to get more information that you can use. You might find a way of giving them face, a route out through that. Or the other way is to ask more questions, open questions, as you say, with a curious tone. I like that, because as you say, questions can come across quite aggressive, and then people can kind of shut down even further. But if it's in a more curious, oh, that's really interesting, tell us a little bit more about that kind of thing. Oh, that's really interesting. Why did you do that? And so on. And then as they, either build the story until as far as they can go, and then they might realize, oh yeah, do you know what? And they'll find their way back to the truth. Or it could be that it just gives you more information that, again, gives you that a way of giving them face, for them to a route out of it kind of thing. And then you can get back to a proper conversation.
Agree. And then the third one, which we've talked about previously, so I'll be brief, is take the time to verify after the conversation.
Yeah.
If this is an iterative negotiation, multiple touch points, after each one, we should be going back and trying to validate or verify everything we've heard, do additional research, come up with new alternatives, and how do we use what we know now to reset the board to start the next conversation, and don't miss out on those opportunities. And
so if you've done that verification, because you're right, it's you never have to agree to anything in a particular meeting. You can always go off and do the processing, etc. And perhaps in that verification, you find out that they're actually, they're telling an untruth. What would you do typically with that in the next meeting?
Couple of options. And there's probably more than these few.
Sure.
But one is to come back. Thank you, Simon, for everything you shared with me in the last conversation. I really appreciated the education. In fact, due to the education, I had to go teach myself a few more things. And when I did, here is what I learned. So now I'm not presenting it as I caught you lying. I'm presenting it as, here is what I've learned.
Okay, yeah.
Or if this truly is a situation where we can break off the conversation in dishonesty, now that I've verified they were dishonest with me, I can put that information in my back pocket. Knowledge doesn't create power. Using our knowledge within the context of the situation creates power. So now I can put that knowledge in my back pocket, come back and ask a few questions. And now if you continue to show me dishonesty based on something that I've already verified isn't true, now I'm one step closer to making the decision. Is this somebody I want to do business with? Or based on this continued verified dishonesty, do I want to break this off and go in another direction? Yeah,
absolutely. And in a negotiation, one of the tenets is that you should always be willing to walk away.
Yes.
But let's not walk away too quickly, because often we can lose value there. And especially, as you said, often we actually have to have an ongoing working relationship with this person. So yeah, this is important. Fabulous, Mike. Thanks very much. This has been so enlightening for me. I have learned so much. This has been brilliant. Everybody else, if you haven't seen the other videos that we've done, do check them out. There's a whole series of them. Do check Mike's work out on his website and Inquasive. Do check my website, Negotiation Mastery. Wish you all of the best of luck putting it all into practice.
Simon, thank you. Love the conversations. Great to see you again. Everybody stay safe, take care of each other, and wish you all the best.